All right, I want to go back to our inverse functions. As we look at a summary of what we talked about so far, we've said that if a function is a one-to-one function, then it will have an inverse function, f inverse of x. So notation for the inverse function is that superscript -1. And remember, to be one-to-one, each y value must produce exactly one x value. So if you don't have a one-to-one function, which again we can show with the horizontal line test graphically, right? It passed the horizontal line test, it only crosses at one point, it fails if it crosses at more than one point. But if a function is not one-to-one, it may be possible to restrict the domain so that it is one-to-one. And we can think back to the quadratic function, our U-shaped parabola graph that we graphed earlier, right? In one of our examples, it failed the horizontal line test. It was not one-to-one, right? We could draw a horizontal line that crossed at 2 different points, means more than one x value with the same y. But we could have restricted the domain, right? We could have restricted the x values to be in the left or right side of the vertex, for example. That would produce one-to-one function, right? If we only looked at the left side of the parabola, vertex of the parabola, or the right side of the parabola, again, vertex, we would be able to produce a one-to-one function, which would have an inverse function. And with that said, to find the inverse function, we swap out the relating variables. So remember, we interchange x and y, what we call the inverse relationship. And then we solve for y, right, to create the function from that, which is our inverse function. And since we are swapping out x and y, we know domain and range characteristics will be opposites with your f and f inverse functions. So, for example, the domain of f of x is equal to the range of f inverse of x, and vice versa. The range of the f function will be identical to the domain of the f inverse function. And remember, inverse functions, they're always symmetrical to the line y equals x. Right? And that's what we were talking about at the end, is checking our work graphically, seeing that symmetry line. So let's go back to our last example we did, example C, where we had this power 5 function, f of x equals x plus 4 to the 5th power, this 5th degree polynomial. Well, we saw it was one-to-one. We graphed it and showed it passed the horizontal line test. Each y gave us exactly one x, and we can see that here with our graph. And then after we did that, we said, well, let's find that inverse function since we know it exists. And so we looked at relating variables of x and y. We swapped them out, interchanged them, inverse relation, and then we solved for y. And we came up with the 5th root of x minus 4. So let's go graph this. And to do that, right, you can look at it nicely on a Desmos calculator. Desmos calculator is an app for that, or the website. And you can put it on your tablet or phone easily with the app. But it allows you to sketch your graphs here. And you can see here, I've graphed in our functions. So here's my f of x function. Right, f of x is equal to, here's the 5th degree polynomial that we were given, right? And then again, we saw that was, of course, one-to-one. It passed not only vertical line test, but the horizontal line test, and always increasing. And that's another characteristic of one-to-one functions. There's no turning point. It's always increasing or always decreasing. And then we found its inverse function, and its inverse function was this 5th root function, right? This was f inverse of x equal to the 5th root of x minus 4. And then with these two graphs, you can see that they're symmetrical to the line y equals x. So here's our symmetry line, and you see that, and you see where they intersect. They intersect that line y equals x. So again, that's looking at these graphs, right? Again, you can get a good picture of the graphs together, as you see in these here, and they're symmetrical to each other about that line. That's true with all inverse functions. So the symmetry line, that's a quick way to check visually, right, when you're graphing them. So I like to see them graphically. It's nice to look at, and that gave us some good graphs of these two inverse functions. All right, we'll look at that in a little bit, all right, algebraically by doing composition. But let's move on. Let's do another example. Let's take example D. Now, in example D, right, we're looking at our function here. We got f of x equal to 2 over x minus 3. One thing I do want to note on this function is that we do have a domain restriction on this one. And this is the first one we've done where we've had an undefined value. So let's go ahead and make note of that. I know that x minus 3 cannot equal 0. So that implies x cannot equal 3. So if you're talking about the domain, right, of your f of x function, and if you remember back to rational graphs, the 0 of your denominator will locate your vertical asymptote. So graph will go vertical at 3. But our graph will have two parts to it. Have the left of 3, all real numbers less than 3, or all the numbers greater than 3, 3 to infinity. So that's our domain there of f of x. There's all the x values. So in a little bit, I know from this, I'm going to make that note before we even find it. We know we find the inverse function, that the range, right, of f inverse of x, the inverse function, will equal the domain of the f function. So the y values should be all y values less than 3 or greater than 3. So we should see that when we graph it, right? That's where our y values should take place. So again, we've got the domain of the f function, which leads us to the range of the f inverse function. So first off, is 2 over x minus 3, is that a one-to-one function? So you could do it algebraically. You could set f of a equal f of b and show that a equal b. All right, you could graph it. You could put it on your calculator. And let's go ahead and do that. Let's look at our TI or your Desmos. All right, let's get a picture of that graph. Let's type in y equal to 2 divided by x minus 3. So we'll put that in here together. But here's your graph of the given rational function. Right? And you can see this graph right here at 3 on the x-axis. You can see the graph going vertical. Right? It's a break. You see your domain that we talked about. So again, it gives us a quick sketch, right, of that graph, right, which is definitely one-to-one. Right? This graph, again, nowhere would cross at more than 1 point. Right? Intersects is only 1 point if we draw a horizontal line. Right? And this graph, if you were to look at it, it's always decreasing. As you go from left to right, it's decreasing in value over here. Let's look at the two parts from left to right. So again, it's a one-to-one function. So with that said, we know it is one-to-one. So I'm going to go ahead and make that note. So f of x is one-to-one. All right, now I've proven that by the horizontal line test, HLT. So that implies f inverse of x exists. So let's go ahead and get the inverse function. So let's find it. So we're going to find f inverse of x. So our first step, step 1, let's go ahead and look at the relating variables. So y is equal to 2 over x minus 3. And step 2, we're going to swap out, right, interchange x and y. We're going to look at the inverse relationship. So remember, that means to interchange or swap out the x and y variables. So y becomes x, x becomes y. And now our third step, we need to solve for y, right? We need to create a function from that. So to do that, now to solve for y, right, we'll go ahead and clear out our fractions. Let's go ahead and multiply both sides by y minus 3. As we do that, right, what do we get? Now in our equation, we brought y up so we can solve for it, right? We're solving a rational equation right now because y is in the denominator. So we do that by clearing the fractions, getting the LCD, multiplying it out. So as we do that, we got x times y minus 3 equal to 2, right? And we could go ahead and divide out the x. We could distribute different ways to look at it, but we can go ahead and divide both sides by x, and we're solving for y. And we get y minus 3 equal to 2 over x. And then we could add the 3 to both sides. And we get what? Y equal to 2 over x plus 3. So here's our inverse function. F inverse of x is 2 over x plus 3. Right? Which, looking at our graph, right, we should have a domain undefined value at 0. Right? And we should have a range of all real numbers less than 3 or greater than 3. So we should have a break at 3 on the y-axis. So keep that in mind when we graph this function. So remember, we've already talked about its range. And of course, the domain, right? The domain of this graph should be what? X cannot equal 0. So as we're talking about the domain, right, the x values for our inverse function, f inverse of x, it should be, again, equal to all real values less than 0, negative infinity to 0, or all values greater than 0, which should be the range of the f function, which we can go back and look at. So let's go look at this one now on our TI. Let's get a graph, or again on the Desmos. I'll use the Desmos on mine, so this will give me a better picture. About 2 over x plus 3. So we'll plug that in. So here in our second function, we'll put in the inverse function. So 2 divided by x. So we type that one in here together. All right, and then a plus 3. And there it is there in black. You can get a good picture of that graph. And you can see that graph in black. All right, it's being, what? Separated here at the y-axis, which is x equals 0, the undefined value. But you also notice, where's this graph breaking up on the y-axis? You can see it right here at y equal 3. That graph in black is where we have that flattening out, that horizontal asymptote characteristic that we studied in rational graphs, which is what we have here, this one, the graph of y equal to 3. So again, that's just a quick picture of this graph. Now with that said, let's go to our symmetry line. So if you look at the line y equal x, which we can go ahead and graph, right? There's your symmetry. So it gives you a good picture. These graphs are symmetrical to that line. Where do they intersect, right? They intersect at the line y equal x. So remember, that gives you a quick picture, and you can see the characteristics. The x and y values have interchanged, right? We had a domain of all real numbers except 3 for our f of x function, 2 over x minus 3. And for our inverse function, which is 2 over x plus 3, we've got a, what? Range of all real y values except 3. And then our domain is all real numbers except 0, which was our range on the graph of f of x, right? You can see it separating at the y-axis, horizontal asymptote, y equals 0 at the f of x function. So again, that gives you a good picture. I like to check them quickly, and that's a while to look at it there in my grapher. All right, so let's go ahead and move on as we look at inverse functions. The last example, if you see example E that we had in here, right? And example E is a parabola. So with E, we had f of x equal to what? 3x squared minus 4x plus 3. Well, with that function, they have not restricted domain. I know graphically, here's the graph of f of x, right? That fails the horizontal line test, right? This is not a one-to-one function, not one-to-one, so that implies f inverse of x does not exist. So we would have to restrict the domain in order to find the inverse function, which they have not on that one. And maybe we'll look at one later. I'll give another example, showing one with the range or domain restricted and find the inverse. But those are some good examples of inverse functions. All right, so let's move on to our last topic. All right, last thing we want to look at, I've talked about the symmetry line y equal x. Well, you can prove that algebraically using composition. All right. With that said, it says anytime you compose inverse functions. So what is composition? We studied composition early in the semester. It's when we plug one function into the other. It says f of x and g of x are inverse function. You plug g into f, it will simplify to y equal x. Doesn't matter the order. If you plug f into g, it'll simplify to the function y equal x. So here's an example. I've got f of x and f inverse of x given. It says verify these are inverses with composition, right? We just did these, right? This is what we just looked at, our last example in D. So I want to show that. So as I look at f composed with f inverse of x, I get f of f inverse of x. Well, let's do the composition. That's f of what? 2 over x plus 3. And now I can evaluate. Now remember, how do we evaluate composition? We're going to plug it in. So we're going to take 2 over x plus 3, and we're going to plug it in wherever we see x. So that means we'll have 2 divided by 2 over x plus 3 minus 3. So I've inputted that into the function. And as I simplify, we get 2 divided by 2 over x. And what does that simplify to? Well, we've got a fraction within a fraction. So we can multiply by the reciprocal to clear that out. And the 2's divide out. And what do we get? Their composition, f composed with f inverse of x equals x. This symmetry line, right? Y equals x. It doesn't matter the order. It can go either way, right? You could take f inverse and plug it into f. Again, you'll get the same thing, right? So again, composition will always equal x if you're dealing with inverse functions.